This is a true story. In 1981, Keith and Diane Williams moved to the quiet town of London, Ohio, with their 4-year-old daughter, Raven. Life seemed peaceful until a chilling series of events unfolded. One evening, while Keith was away at night school, Diane stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes. Suddenly, she felt an uneasy sensation, as though someone was watching her. Glancing out the window, she froze. 2 glowing golden eyes stared back at her from the tree line. Thinking it might be a large dog, she moved to another window for a better look. But the unsettling thought remained. The dog seemed unusually tall, standing at her eye level. Curiosity gnawed at her, and she peeked out again. This time, a human head with those same glowing eyes slowly emerged from the darkness, locking eyes with her. Terrified, Diane bolted away just as Keith's car pulled into the driveway. Relieved by his arrival, she frantically explained what had happened. Keith searched their property, but found nothing. He reassured her it was probably just an animal and encouraged her not to worry. A month later, Diane was alone with Raven again. As she stood at the kitchen sink, she glanced outside and saw those same golden eyes rising slowly from the window's edge. Panic surged through her. Believing it was an intruder, she rushed around the house, turning off all the lights. When her home darkened, her fears were confirmed. A tall figure with glowing eyes stood just outside the window. Diane immediately called 911. When officers arrived, they found no sign of an intruder. Keith returned home shortly after and wasn't pleased Diane had called the police. He insisted she was either imagining things or just homesick. The police advised her to call again if anything suspicious occurred. Months passed without incident, and the Williams family finally felt at ease, until one cold December morning. After a fresh snowstorm, Keith woke early to grab donuts for the family. Starting his car and adjusting his rearview mirror, his heart stopped. A figure stood directly behind his vehicle. Keith jumped out to investigate, but no one was there. Instead, he found strange footprints circling the front of his house. Disturbingly, the tracks ended at his front door, and then continued up to the roof. The back of the house had no footprints at all. Alarmed, Keith called his friend Dennis, a skilled hunter, and asked him to bring his rifle. When Dennis arrived, the 2 men discussed the bizarre events. Suddenly, they heard a loud thud, as if something had jumped from the roof to the ground. Rushing around the house, they discovered footprints in the snow, starting 20 feet from the house, an impossible leap for any human. The prints were massive, measuring 14 inches long, and clearly belonged to a bipedal creature with long legs. Determined to get answers, Keith and Dennis followed the tracks deep into the woods. The trail led them to a small cabin they had never seen before. The footprints ended at the cabin's door. They banged on the door, demanding whoever was inside to come out. Realizing the situation looked bad, 2 men with rifles shouting at someone's home, Keith convinced Dennis they should leave. Keith called his father, who revealed the cabin belonged to an older man named George, who worked at the local tire shop. Curious, Keith and Dennis visited the shop the next day with a worn-out tire as an excuse. When George appeared, both men froze. It was him, the man with the unmistakable golden eyes. George recognized them too, and hurried back inside without a word. Months passed quietly, until one morning Dennis arrived with surprising news. George had died. This seemed like the perfect opportunity to revisit the mysterious cabin. When they arrived, a police officer was already there. Dennis explained their past encounters, and the officer agreed to let them inside, mentioning something strange about the place. Inside, the cabin was nearly empty except for a small table and a wooden chair. The officer then revealed a hidden metal door behind a curtain. Opening it unleashed a foul odor like wet dog. Inside was a chilling sight. Walls lined with plated steel, chains, and shackles in the center. The steel walls bore deep claw marks, some old, some fresh. Ever since George's death, Keith's family was never disturbed again. Was George some kind of werewolf? Could this explain the glowing eyes, impossible leaps, and the strange chamber in his cabin? What do you think? Could George have been something far more terrifying than anyone imagined? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That brings us to the end of our story. Please don't forget to like, share, and follow us for more. Thank you, see you next time, and bye for now.